The year opened with a major council of war in Casablanca between Churchill, Roosevelt, and de Gaulle. At the conference, the Allies established a policy that the only outcome of the war was the unconditional surrender of the Axis. In the end of January, the Germans suffered a major defeat when their forces surrendered at Stalingrad. The Russians also lifted the 17-month siege of Leningrad in January of 1943. The year also began with the United States beginning the first daylight bombing of Germany. The British bombed by night, and the Americans by day. In North Africa, in February, American forces fought a major battle with Rommel's forces in the Kasserine Pass. In April, the remaining Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto staged an uprising. It took the Nazis almost a month to subdue the ghetto. In July, the largest tank battle of the war took place at Kursk. Both sides had 1,000 tanks, and the battle took 2 days, with the Russians successful. July also saw Allied forces under the command of General George Patton landing in Sicily. In September, with Allied forces in southern Italy, the Italians surrendered, but the Germans rushed troops in to stop the Allied forces. In October, the Russians launched a major attack on the German lines and were successful in breaking through. In the Pacific, the United States continued to move westward, first completing their capture of the Solomon Islands, and then in November, attacking the Gilbert Islands. The battle for Tarawa Island, while successful for the U.S., was costly and showed how tenacious the Japanese were going to be. The year ended with the first major conference of the Big Three: Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt. The conference took place at Tehran, and the participants discussed strategy for the remainder of the war, as well as plans for a post-war world. 1943 was an important year for submarine warfare. For the German Navy, it was a year of defeats, as the Allies, using new tactics, superior intelligence, and better escort ships, including escort carriers, began to win the Battle of the Atlantic. In the Pacific, however, it was the American submarines that were taking an increasingly heavy toll on the Japanese. 1943 was also the year in which Allied bombing of Germany began to start taking a significant toll. Night after night, the British bombed the major German cities, and day after day, the Americans went after the key industrial sites throughout Germany. None of this stopped the Germans from killing the Jews. Day after day, trains arrived at Auschwitz, and their occupants were sent directly to the gas chambers. In a few places, the Nazis were stifled by local opposition. The Jews of Denmark were smuggled en masse to Sweden. The Jews of Bulgaria survived because the government refused to give them up. In Greece and Italy, many survived because the local population hid them.